more this way a little bit. I think we're good to go.
Welcome, everybody, to the Missig Performance Group, the MPG Podcast. I'm John Graybiel, and of course, we are joined with Jordan Missig, who comes off this is Monday the 26th. Had a couple races on the. Well, let's get all the information from Jordan here. You had a couple races on the 25th. I don't know. Did you race on the 24th? I didn't know about on Saturday.
No, there was a 3.5-hour endurance race here at the Audubon, but no, I did not race in it. I decided to take the race off and just kind of enjoy it and just watch what happened, and just raced on the 25th, for Sunday yesterday.
Doubleheader.
Yes, doubleheader for the Radicals.
Beautiful, beautiful day. I mean, there was so much stuff going on at the track this weekend. I mean, we were there, and at 8:30, I've never seen so many cars at 8:30 in the morning get on the track. It was pretty amazing, a lot. And you guys got out there about 11 o'clock or something was qualifying? Is that
qualifying
right?
Was around 10:45, so yeah, running up to 11 o'clock
okay.
was qualifying for us. We had about 10 cars, I'd say, in our race. So pretty decent-sized field for the Radical Series. I think our highest was around 15 cars. So, 10 cars is a pretty decent-sized field, pretty high-quality field as well, too. So it was a lot of fun the whole day.
And how'd qualifying go?
Qualifying was really good. Went out there and posted my fastest lap on the 5th lap of the session. Had to get the tires warmed up, so it took about three laps to get tires warmed up. Finally started to come in on lap 4. Lap 5 is when we posted our fastest lap. Did only 9 laps because I didn't want to waste any of the extra rubber on the tires, so I kind of pulled off and saved it, and then I was able to do like a 120.0. So
wow.
And on the Radicals, that's pretty fast. Judging by on old tires, we were only able to do a 120.8. And then the morning practice session at 9 o'clock, about an hour before qualifying on old tires, we were able to post a 120.5, so it'll go half a second faster on new tires.
That's a minute 25. And so you said it was a minute 20.4? Is that what it is?
20.0 was the fastest time. Minute 20.0.
Yeah, and to give some kind of reference point, I'm in a 911, a Porsche 911 with street tires, S model. I'm doing about a 143 minute lap, which is the exact same as a race prepared Miata. For me, I run about the same. Fast Miata's like 138 around that track. So yeah, when you're 18 seconds faster than a very good Miata driver. The car that you're driving, and of course the drivers. It's a big jump. It's definitely a big jump.
And you can definitely tell the difference, especially in the high-speed corners. The Radical really, flares its wings, I should say, and kind of shows off its stuff of what it's capable of doing as a car itself. It's really, you as a driver, you really don't see or kind of understand what the car can actually do until you actually are inside the car driving it and actually pushing it to the car's limits, and then you understand and realize this car actually has some capability of going through some of these corners at these kind of speeds.
Yeah, it's an incredible rush. So you got there, you hit the qualifying pretty good, and I was distracted at 1:15 because I thought there was only one race that was later on. And I was like, wait a minute, they're going out. I thought you were going out for qualifying. And we were waving at you as you went by. We were down with the Mustangs. we were waving at you when you went by, cheering you on. So we got to walk out, and we got to see the beginning of the race, and almost to the end of it. And we headed back over to the kart track. But so how'd the first race go? So you qualified first, right?
Yes, qualified on pole. The first race went pretty smooth and steady, I will say. My kind of standard kind of race I like to go. So started off on pole, took the lead going into turn 1, and kind of led the whole race from there. Louis Schreiber, who is my championship rival, has been nose to tail with me the entire year, has been on my heels. was behind me for the first part of the race and then kind of started to dwindle back and I started to pull away a little bit. Ended up pulling to a 4-second lead by the end of the race. So won the race by 4 seconds over Louis Schreiber, and then it was like another 22 seconds back to third. So as you can tell, me and Louis were the class of the fields and pulled away throughout the whole first race. So
yeah, it was pretty cold. Well, cold. I mean, it was a cool day, probably one of the more coolest days of the summer here. I know overnight it was really nice. Do you find that the track conditions by the time you get out there at 10:45 for your qualifying, are they pretty normal, and then by the time 1 o'clock comes around they're pretty standard?
Yeah, the track conditions changed just the slightest bit. Wasn't too much of a change, but you could tell as the tires heated up and the race went on, the track was definitely changing, and it was a different variable type of racing. From comparison to qualifying to the actual race itself, the track probably slowed down by just like maybe 2 or 3 tenths, if anything. So nothing, and plus we have more fuel load in the car as well, so the cars are going to be heavier compared to qualifying. So we're running kind of close to the same line, same kind of rhythm as we were for qualifying, but you're not getting as much top end speed as you were in qualifying. So okay. I'd say the track conditions were kind of getting hot, a little bit more slick, but not as slick as we're used to on hot, scorching days.
Gotcha. So you finished the first one, first position, and I know that Louis' car. You mentioned Louis. Your car is a left-hand drive car, and you have yes. 2 seats in your car.
Correct.
And I saw Louis coming down as he was going out, and I thought it was an SR1. Is an SR1? Are they still 2-seaters too, or is it one single seat?
SR1s are single-seaters, but they have a Radical SR3, which is also a single-seater as well, which is what Louis has. So Louis has a single-seater right in the middle of the car, while I have a left-hand drive car, and I have a passenger seat, so I can give rides if I want to, but I normally just have a left-hand drive car, because normally I'm driving cars on the street on the left-hand side, so I don't really like to, that 3 inches, or I should say, when you move over to a center seat, can mess up your whole vision of and your depth perception of the whole racetrack itself. So I tend to just stay on the left-hand side and not move over to a center seat, even though I'm not going to be given rides at all, just to keep the depth perception the way it is and it's always been.
Yeah, that's interesting. The car that you're used to. I'm assuming, or I should say I'm assuming, but have you driven like Formula cars?
No, I have not been able to get the chance to drive a Formula car at all, especially on a racetrack or anywhere really. The only cars I've really driven were the go-karts, the Miata maybe a couple of times, and then the Radicals on track. So only those 3 types of cars I've only been able to drive.
Which to me is incredibly amazing that you're so good. I mean, so incredibly good. I bet you'd be incredibly good in any car you drove. And yeah, someday I'd like to drive a Formula car too, just to see what it would be like. I think it's definitely going to be a different look and a different feel, I would assume.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But when I hear it's a little bit more of a touchy kind of feeling to drive a Formula like a Pro Mazda or anything like that. It's a little bit more of a touchy, but they're not as, I would say, forgiving as a Radical. But, they're still, the grip level is probably a little bit more than a Radical has.
We assume more downforce, I guess, from that? Or bigger tires, too, maybe.
Yeah, bigger tires, more downforce with the wings in the front and everything. So it does place more of a – and plus it's lighter, too. So it's going to play more of a factor.
True. So when you get a single seat Radical, is that made from the factory, or do they convert that at the local shop?
Normally it's made from the factory, from what I see. And I know we can convert like a 2-seater to a 2-seater and everything else, because it's kind of like the same components and everything. But I think what some people may do is if you take that out, you got to put a bracket in to allow the single-seater to stay in. I don't know. I haven't really seen anybody take a 2-seater out and then put a single-seater in. All I know is that they just get them straight from the factory is what I know.
Yeah, I guess I didn't pay attention until then, until yesterday when I saw it coming, because I called my son over and I said, look, it's an SR3 going out to run with them. And then I go, no, it's not. That's Louis' car. Interesting. Okay. So second race comes around.
Yes.
And
Second race, we started on pole because it goes off the fastest lap from the first race, prior from the first race. So we had the fastest lap, allows us to start on pole for the next race. Louis to my outside again. And this time was a much tougher race. This time, Louis was in my mirror the entire time and did not let go. He was pressuring me the entire race. I kept checking in my mirrors every time I'd get to a long straightaway point or a chance where I could check my mirrors. But he kept it tight. We were probably side by side on the first lap through turns 1, 2, and 3, and then we were side by side going into 4, and I was on the outside. Louis had the preferred line on the inside, and I said, "You're not taking this lead away from me." So I just kept my foot full throttle all the way through turn 4, never lifted on the outside, and just kind of kept it pegged, and the car stuck, and Louis had to back out of it a little bit, or else he would have slid up into me. Probably taking us both out of the race. So good thing he did not do that.
I did watch that. I watched the start of that race, and I watched that first turn, the second turn, and going in, like you said, going into the fourth turn, and you were like shot out of a cannon at that fourth turn. I mean, it was pretty incredible. So I'm glad to hear you describe it from inside the car, because that's exactly what I saw. You just flew out of that turn, and then you had him at that point, but he was nipping at your heels the whole way, huh?
Yeah, he wasn't laying off the pressure, that's for sure. He was hanging on my heels the entire time and kept me on my toes to make sure I wouldn't make any mistakes the whole race. So he was on my heels the entire race, and luckily we didn't make any mistakes and brought it home as a P1 position, got the win, and Louis finished second. And from what I heard from other competitors and everything, me winning that race and Louis finished second locked up the championship for me.
Oh, how many more races are there?
There's 3 races left, and I have 6 wins on the year.
So you drop, and how this series works is you can drop 3.
I think it's 4. You could drop
4. Okay.
And is that the next 3 races I was to miss? Those would be part of my 3 drops, plus the first race of the season I also missed. So those would be considered my 4 drops. So as of now, if the season was to end, my standings would be 6 wins and 1 second place finish.
Gotcha.
Or 2 second place finishes with 6 wins.
Right. Yeah. I think I follow how that works. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it gets confusing when I'm looking at the points and standings or any of the race series. It gets confusing when you have to calculate
drop weeks.
The drops.
When you calculate drops, that's when it really gets confusing, and you got to actually do the math. But when you look at points straight off of paper and everything, it's much easier. So
right.
It'd be better if everyone just made every race and raced every race.
Okay, so what's next? What's the next race for you?
Next race for us, I think, will be not Portland. Excuse me. We're going out to Sonoma, California.
Right, we talked
Sonoma for the Radical Cup Series. Yes.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. Is that the last race in that series?
Second to last race.
Second to last race. And when do you leave for that?
We will leave for that in, I think, 2 weeks. So that's a 2-week race from now. So we got about 2 weeks to just kind of do whatever we want to do, just kind of hang out, get ready for Sonoma, and then we will leave on Tuesday, I think, for me. And then practice will be Wednesday, racing Saturday. When I say Wednesday, practice will be Friday, and then racing will be Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. All right. And you started back in school this week? Or
last week. Last week I started back in school, yes.
Okay. All right. And that's all going good?
Yep. School's going all fine and everything. So I'm kind of just getting used to my classes, getting back in the swing of things, and just kind of going through the whole shindig and everything on what's going on with the normal school life here at college.
And you're a junior now this year?
Junior in college, yes.
Yeah, junior. Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So the next, we do have a little break. I know from kart racing, we do have a little break from kart racing. Next race, I think, is until the 15th of next month.
Which is the exact same weekend I'm in Sonoma. And I think you guys are going to Ignite Challenge race too, out at
that's the following week.
TNT.
That's the following week. Yeah. So we'll be at the next race the following weekend. We're gonna miss. I think it's the 20. I keep saying the 28th, but I don't know if that's right. It's the 28th. So the 15th and the 28th are the next 2 kart races at the club, and we'll miss the one on the 28th. But there's back. I messed up the. Looking at my calendar, I messed up the Skype feed here. So sorry about that. Little technical difficulties. We're back. So you'll miss the next race, but the 28th you'll be for the kart
I should
race.
be here unless it is. Unless Kyle put out the new kart schedule, because I know I'm missing one race, and I thought it was the same weekend you guys were at the Ignite Challenge weekend was the kart race that I was missing because I was in Sonoma. I know I'm missing one race for Sonoma. I know that for a fact.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that you'll be thoroughly missed there at the kart track. We got we got a lot of practice. I personally didn't, but my son got a lot of practice in yesterday. Surprisingly, I didn't expect him to spend as much time. And my daughter had the most laps she's ever had in her entire life.
There you go.
I mean, it was fantastic to see them both out there. I mean, she was. I was overjoyed to see how much she was on the track with her cart. So it was fantastic.
That's the only way you get better. That's the only way you can get better.
So speaking of getting better and practicing, how often are you getting in the Radical? How often do you practice through the week? Like, so the next Radical race at the club is
not until like after September, late September, I think, is the next race. Will be in about a month. So for me personally, I probably will do, if the race is on Sunday, I'll probably go out late Friday and then spend the whole day Saturday out there. But if it's on a Saturday, I'll normally spend 2 days in front. So Thursday and Friday for the race Saturday, or Friday, Saturday for the race Sunday. Normally I spend about 2 days out there in advance before the race happens on with that track.
So before you started racing, were you in the car in the summer? Were you in there every single day lapping, or was it still just a couple days before the races and stuff? Is that?
Before I started racing, it was kind of just like, whenever you can get out there and just go lapping and everything like that. But then once I got into a routine to do a couple laps here and there before each race. That way I could get the track in my mind and just kind of think of what the car needs for this weekend, how's the track conditions going to be like and everything like that. So I try to keep it similar to a Radical Cup weekend, like a normal race weekend where you do 2 days in advance or a day in advance before you start racing. I just try to keep it like that. That way it's like kind of in the same set of mind and mojo and everything.
Yeah, so it's an interesting way to approach it. Is there much car changes going on in those 2 days for a local race here? I know, as we have talked about, the car setup for the different tracks you go to, but does it stay relatively the same here at your home track?
Very minimum changes that we will make. Some guys will make big setup changes if they want to, just to kind of play around with it. Me personally, I normally do more of like wing changes and maybe some rebound and shot changes. That's about it. I'll change like a little bit of the shock settings, change the low speed, high speed, or rebound settings on the shock, or we'll change the wing direction, go down to a lower wing or to a higher wing for more downforce or straight line speed.
So you're still making changes here. Sounds like just maybe not as big as you would be on a road race. So one question I forgot to ask. So you'd mentioned tires at the beginning. Did you run the same set of tires all day yesterday?
Yeah, you had to run the same set of tires that you qualified on. So whatever set you qualified on, you had to race for race one, and then you had to race the same tires for race two.
Do they mark them some way to know that they're the same? So
right when you come on the grid for qualifying, there's a guy on the in pit road right before you go to your stall that marks your tires before you can even get on track. So they'll stop you if they have to.
Right. Okay. And is there a lot of at the home track? Or is there a lot of? I know I see the Miatas all the time in the tech building. Is there a lot of teching going on for the Radicals?
Yeah, sometimes we'll go into the tech building if they got the people there, if they got the person there who does the tech stuff. There's always a guy who's there with the weights and everything to kind of go over, make sure you're at weight and everything. The only thing that they don't check that the Radicals will do at the travel races is check the splitter height, the ride height itself. I think they just trust us enough here that we're not going to break any splitter height advantages. But on the travel races, that's what they check for, is the ride height issue between the splitter and the ground. So they don't do that here, but all they do here is check weight restrictions.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Well, it's been, congratulations on the 2 wins, and we think maybe locking up the championship. That is fantastic, because last year you got second in the championship last year?
Third in the championship.
Third. So we went from third to fingers crossed here. That's wrapped up in first. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And where are you running in the travel series?
Travel series, points have still not been posted yet from Portland's results, so we're kind of still wondering where we are after the last race incident that we had. Sure, yeah. So we thought we were ahead in points of Gustavo Raffles, who's in second. So we're borderline between second and third, we think. So hopefully we're keeping our fingers crossed that we're in second, and if not in third, then we got to go to work here in Sonoma.
Well, that's pretty incredible because is that officially your rookie year in that travel?
Yeah, rookie year in that travel series.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. That's just a testament again to your driving skills and determination and fortitude and discipline, and and that's just fantastic.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's been great to catch up with you on another episode of the MPG podcast. I appreciate it, and we'll talk next week. Maybe we'll find some other topic. There's no racing going on for next week, so we'll figure out something to visit with next week that we can talk in depth with you again and keep up to date on everything that's going on with Jordan Missick. How about that?
Looking forward to it as always, John.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.